Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. Lieutenant Jack Harkness wrestled with the controls of his spacecraft, the hull groaning under the strain of atmospheric entry. Beside him, Corporal Miles Davison braced against his seat, eyes fixed on the blinking alerts. "We're not going to make it, are we?" Miles shouted over the roar. Jack gritted his teeth, pulling up on the stick. "Hang on. We're just going to have a little bump." The spacecraft shuddered violently as it careened through the thick, glowing mist that enveloped Azura. With a final, jarring thud, it skidded across the alien landscape, a trail of torn earth in its wake. When the tumult finally settled, silence swallowed the craft. "Everyone all right?" Jack checked his limbs, then looked over at Miles. "Yeah, just give me a minute to stop my head from spinning," Miles replied, unstrapping himself. They clambered out of the wreckage, the alien world of Azura unfolding before them. The ground sparkled with bioluminescent vegetation, and towering crystals loomed like giants against the twilight sky. "Would you look at that?" Miles gasped, taking in the view. Jack was about to respond when a rustling sound caught their attention. From behind a nearby crystal, a group of figures emerged. They were unlike any humans, tall, with iridescent skin and eyes that shimmered like the landscape. The figures, all female, approached cautiously yet with a clear intent in their steps. Jack held up his hands, showing they were unarmed. "We come in peace," he announced, hoping the universal phrase held some weight here. The tallest of the aliens, who bore a regal demeanor, stepped forward. "You are not from Azura. Why come?" Her voice was melodic, echoing strangely in the open air. "We crashed. We didn't intend to come here," Miles explained, stepping beside Jack. One of the aliens, driven by curiosity more than caution, reached out swiftly to Jack. Her touch was gentle but curious, fingers tracing the unfamiliar fabric of his uniform until one tug at his sleeve caused the material to rip. Miles chuckled nervously. "Looks like they don't get many visitors in these parts." The regal figure spoke again, her tone mixed with curiosity and command. "You will come with us. You must explain your presence to the council." Jack exchanged a look with Miles. They had no choice but to comply. As they followed the aliens through the luminous forest, Jack whispered, "Stay sharp, but keep respectful. We need to figure out where we stand." "Right behind you, boss," Miles replied, his gaze lingering on the alien architecture that began to rise in the distance ahead. Their journey through the alien terrain was filled with whispered exchanges about their next moves, observations on the surroundings, and cautious interactions with their guides, who communicated in hushed tones, pointing at the unfamiliar technology adorning their new guests. Jack felt the weight of every step into this unknown civilization, aware that the survival of him and his comrade might well depend on the diplomacy they managed to muster in the coming hours. Jack and Miles were escorted through the bioluminescent forest, their path illuminated by the otherworldly glow of the flora. The architecture of the Lelurian capital was a blend of natural formations and intricate craftsmanship, structures built around the existing landscape rather than on it. As they entered the city, they were met by an envoy who introduced himself in halting, but understandable, English. "I am Taller, your liaison with the Lelurian Council," he said, his voice calm and his stance formal yet welcoming. "Pleased to meet you," Jack replied, extending his hand, a gesture that Taller hesitated over before mimicking. Miles gave a slight nod, still taking in the sights and sounds of the alien city. Taller led them to a towering structure at the city's center, its walls shimmering with the same iridescent quality as the Lelurian skin. Inside, they were brought to a circular room where members of the council awaited. Lieutenant Harkness, Corporal Davison, "Welcome to Azura," greeted a stately figure who stood to address them. "I am Counselor Riva. We understand you arrived here by accident. Before we can allow you to leave, we need to understand your intentions and the technology you bring." Jack stepped forward. "Of course, Counselor. We mean no harm. Our arrival was unplanned due to a navigation error compounded by mechanical failure. We are explorers, not conquerors," Miles added. "Our primary goal is to repair our ship and return home." Any assistance in understanding your technology would be beneficial for mutual trust. The council murmured among themselves before Riva spoke again. We will consider your request. In the meantime, Talar will assist you in acclimating to our ways. With formalities paused, Talar escorted them to what appeared to be living quarters. You will stay here while the council deliberates. I will be your guide. It is rare we have male visitors, or any outsiders. Many will be curious, he explained. Jack looked around, impressed by the efficiency and elegance of the design. Thank you, Talar. We appreciate your hospitality, and we're curious about you too. Learning from each other could benefit us all. Over the next few days, Talar introduced them to various aspects of Lelurian society. They visited a marketplace where Miles tried to communicate using a few phrases Talar taught them, much to the amusement of the local vendors. Jack spent time learning about their governance, a system deeply intertwined with environmental stewardship. Our leaders must understand and protect our ecosystems to govern, Talar explained as they walked through a lush garden atop one of the buildings. Meanwhile, Miles, with his knack for mechanical systems, became particularly interested in their energy sources. This is fascinating, he remarked during a visit to a power plant. Your use of crystal technology for power is light years ahead of anything we've got. As the sun set one evening, the three of them sat by a reflective pool in the garden, sharing stories of their respective worlds. Jack took the moment to delve deeper into personal topics. What about your personal lives? Do you have families, or? Talar paused, then smiled slightly. Our concepts of family might be different. We are communal. Individuals may form bonds, but all are caretakers of all children. It ensures no one is left wanting. That's quite a contrast to some of the individualism we have back on Earth, Jack mused. As they returned to their quarters that night, Miles reflected on the day's learning. You know, Jack, there's a lot we could bring back. Their way of life, their technology, and their sense of community, Jack added, thinking about the peaceful coexistence and mutual respect he'd witnessed. There's a lot more to this mission than just getting home now. Together, they contemplated the stars from an alien world, pondering what advancements and understanding the next days would bring. The following morning, Jack and Miles joined Talar for a deeper exploration into Lelurian culture, focusing on their artistic and scientific achievements. They visited a grand museum that housed both ancient artifacts and recent technological innovations. Each piece tells a story of our evolution, our challenges, and our progress, Talar explained as they stood before a holographic display showing the Lelurian solar system. These are the planets we've charted and studied in detail. Miles leaned closer, studying the holograms. Have you developed interstellar travel then? Only to a limited degree. Our focus has been more on sustainable living and understanding our own system, Talar replied. Jack, always interested in the philosophical underpinnings of a society, asked, what drives your scientific inquiry? For humans, it's often the desire to conquer or capitalize. Talar chuckled lightly. For us, it's about harmony. Understanding the universe to better align with it, not to dominate it. Their next stop was a laboratory where Lelurian scientists were engaged in botanical research. Dr. Kayla, the lead scientist, greeted them warmly. Welcome, Earthlings. Talar tells me you have different plant life on your world. Yes, quite different, Jack replied. But with similar principles of growth and adaptation. Dr. Kayla showed them around the lab, explaining their work on developing crops that could thrive in various atmospheric conditions. We aim to share these with other communities to prevent shortages. Miles, intrigued, asked if he could see the genetic modifiers they were using. As Dr. Kayla demonstrated the technology, Miles exchanged ideas with her about potential applications for Earth's more arid regions. As they left the lab, Talar suggested a visit to a local school to understand Lelurian education. The trio arrived at a school where children of various ages were engaged in interactive learning. A teacher, Mr. Lauren, invited Jack and Miles to join a class. We are discussing interstellar ethics today. Perhaps you could share how Earth handles ethical dilemmas and exploration. Jack was impressed by the question. Well, it's a contentious issue. There are always debates about the morality of space colonization and resource extraction. The students listened intently, asking thoughtful questions that revealed a mature understanding of complex issues. Miles shared an anecdote about a recent mission that had sparked ethical debates back home, which led to a lively discussion with the class. After the school visit, the group stopped for a meal at a communal dining hall where Tyler explained more about Lalurian social customs. Meals are a time for sharing, not just food, but ideas and feelings. It's a cornerstone of our communal life. As they ate, Jack considered how different, yet effective, this approach to society was. There's something very cohesive about your way of life. Back on Earth, individualism can often lead to isolation. Miles nodded in agreement. There's a lot we could learn from you, Tyler. Not just technologically, but socially as well. The day concluded with a visit to an art exhibition, where local artists used multimedia to depict their visions of the universe. One artist, Elam, engaged them in a discussion about the role of art in society. Art here is meant to inspire, to educate, and to bring us together, Elam explained, gesturing to a piece that used light and sound to create an immersive experience. Miles, deeply moved by the piece, commented, "It's incredible. Art on Earth can sometimes be just for personal expression or commercial gain." Jack added, "Seeing your culture, it strikes me how art and science aren't seen as separate here, but are intertwined with your values and your way of life." As they walked back to their quarters under the starlit sky, the men reflected on the day's experiences. "Today was enlightening," Jack mused. "I think the more we understand each other, the better we can navigate our place in the cosmos, as allies and as friends." Miles agreed, "And the more we share, the more we see what's truly universal among us all." Their conversation lingered on the potential for future collaborations, both inspired by the possibilities of what they could bring back to Earth and what they could contribute to this newfound world. In the cool, early morning light of Azura, Jack and Miles, accompanied by Tyler, set out to explore the engineering sector of the Lalurian capital. Today's agenda was understanding the environmental control systems that maintained the delicate balance of the planet's biomes. As they walked through the sprawling complex, Tyler introduced them to engineer Soren, who oversaw the biome stabilization projects. "Our technology ensures that each biome can adapt to environmental changes without catastrophic effects. It's crucial for our survival," Soren explained, guiding them through a massive control room filled with holographic displays and sensors. Miles, ever curious about new technology, was quick to engage. "How do you manage the feedback loops?" On Earth, similar systems can be quite challenging due to delayed responses and unforeseen variables. Soren nodded, pulling up a schematic on a display. "Here, let me show you. We use a predictive modeling system that incorporates real-time data from thousands of sensors. This model allows us to anticipate changes and adjust parameters proactively rather than reactively." Jack was impressed by the integration of technology with natural systems. "This is incredible. It's like you've woven technology into nature itself without disrupting the inherent balance." "Yes, that's the goal," Soren affirmed. "Would you like to try adjusting the system? We can simulate a scenario for you." Miles jumped at the chance, and with Soren's guidance, he interacted with the system, manipulating variables and observing the outcomes. "It's responsive and intuitive," Miles commented, clearly enjoying the experience. While Miles was engaged, Jack discussed with Tyler the societal implications of such technology. "How do you ensure that this technology doesn't become a tool for control or inequality?" he inquired, always mindful of the ethical dimensions. Tyler appreciated the depth of the question. "It is a concern. However, our governance structures are designed to be transparent and participatory. Every citizen has access to the data and can contribute to the decision-making processes." Their next stop was a nearby research facility focusing on atmospheric sciences. Dr. Joran, a leading atmospheric scientist, greeted them warmly. "Welcome. We were just about to send up a weather balloon to gather data on the upper atmosphere. Would you like to assist?" Jack and Miles eagerly agreed, following Dr. Joran to the launch site. As they prepared the balloon, Dr. Joran explained the significance of their studies. "Understanding our atmosphere is not just about weather prediction. It's about understanding how our planet breathes and lives. It's all interconnected." The balloon ascended, and they tracked its progress on portable monitors. Each data point it sends back helps us build a clearer picture of our atmospheric health, Dr. Joran said, pointing to the incoming data streams. As the day progressed, the group discussed various topics, from Earth's environmental challenges to potential collaborations that could benefit both worlds. The conversations were rich and full of promise, bridging the gap between the two species through shared concerns and mutual interests. Before parting, Dr. Joran handed Jack and Miles a data chip. This contains all the information we gathered today, along with some of our predictive models. Perhaps your scientists will find it useful. Jack accepted the chip gratefully. Thank you, Dr. Joran. This exchange of knowledge could really make a difference back home. As they walked back, Miles reflected on the day's experiences. Every system here is about balance and foresight. It's not just science for science's sake, but science for sustainability's sake. Jack nodded, his thoughts already on how they might integrate these insights into Earth's environmental policies. It's about learning to live within our means and respecting our environment, something we could definitely use more of on Earth. Their conversation lingered on the possibilities as they returned to their quarters, both men invigorated by the potential for meaningful change and inspired by the Lelurian approach to harmonious living. The morning brought an air of tension as Jack and Miles prepared to meet with the Lelurian Council again. The previous days spent learning about Lelurian society had deepened their respect for this alien civilization, but it also underscored the complexities of their diplomatic mission. As they walked to the council building, Taller briefed them on the day's agenda. The council is interested in formalizing an educational exchange program based on the mutual benefits we've discussed, he explained. However, there are concerns about the potential impacts of human technology and cultural influences on Lelurian society. Miles nodded, understanding the delicacy of the situation. We need to reassure them that our aim is to share knowledge, not to impose our ways. Inside the council chamber, Counselor Riva greeted them with a reserved demeanor. Lieutenant Harkness, Corporal Davison, we have considered your proposals and are intrigued by the possibilities of collaboration. However, we must consider the long-term effects on our people and our culture. Jack stepped forward, his tone earnest. Counselor, we share your concerns. We propose starting small, with joint scientific projects and cultural exchanges that allow both our peoples to benefit from learning about each other without overwhelming your traditions. A younger council member, Counselor Pyron, raised a question. How do we safeguard our cultural heritage while embracing what you have to offer? Miles responded, we can include cultural advisors in our exchanges to ensure that both sides remain respectful and aware of these sensitivities. The dialogue unfolded with careful consideration from both parties. Taller facilitated, helping clarify terms and intentions. The discussion then shifted towards technology sharing, particularly environmental technologies that had impressed Jack and Miles during their visits. Counselor Tia, who had been silent, finally spoke. Your environmental technologies are advanced, but how do we ensure that this technology transfer does not become a dependency? Jack acknowledged the concern. It's a valid point, Counselor. Perhaps we could co-develop technologies that suit your needs specifically. Our aim is collaboration, not creating dependency. The meeting continued with detailed discussions on the structures of the proposed exchanges. Agreements were drafted with provisions for review and adjustments to ensure that both parties felt comfortable with the pace and nature of the integration. As the meeting adjourned, Taller turned to Jack and Miles. That went better than I expected. Your willingness to listen and adapt your proposals has been well received. Outside the council chamber, Jack and Miles debriefed with Taller. We'll need to be very careful how we proceed, Jack mused. The balance between sharing and overwhelming is delicate. Miles agreed, adding, it's not just about what we bring, but how we bring it. We need to be as open to learning from the Lelurians as we hope they will be from us. That evening, the trio visited a local observatory, a place where Lelurians studied the stars. As they gazed through a powerful telescope, Taller shared a Lelurian saying, to reach for the stars, one must remain grounded in one's roots. Jack smiled at the saying, feeling it captured the essence of their mission. That's a philosophy we could all benefit from, Taller. The night ended with reflections on their responsibilities as not just representatives of Earth, but as learners and potential friends in a vast, interconnected universe. The stars above seemed to echo the potential of what respectful and thoughtful diplomacy could achieve. The next day dawned with a sense of purpose as Jack and Miles prepared for a pivotal series of workshops designed to lay the groundwork for the educational exchanges they had discussed with the Lelurian Council. Joined by Taller and a team of Lelurian experts, they gathered in a conference room equipped with translation devices and digital displays. As the session began, Jack opened with a brief statement. "We are here to ensure that our collaboration honors the values and aspirations of both our peoples. We envision this as the foundation for a relationship built on mutual respect and shared knowledge." Taller, nodding in agreement, introduced Dr. Leora, a Lelurian sociologist. "Dr. Leora will help us understand the potential social impacts of our exchanges." Dr. Leora stepped forward, her tone thoughtful. "It's important to consider how new ideas can integrate without disrupting the fabric of our society. For instance, introducing human literature and art must be done in a way that enriches rather than overshadows our cultural expressions." Miles, who had taken a keen interest in Lelurian educational methods, added, "Perhaps we could start with joint cultural festivals, events where artists and scholars from both worlds present their work side by side." "That sounds like a beautiful way to celebrate our partnership," Dr. Leora agreed, making a note. "It will also allow our citizens to engage with human culture at their own pace." The workshop then shifted focus to technology. Engineer Soren, who had shown Jack and Miles the environmental control systems, was next to speak. "In terms of technology, especially environmental tech, we should consider apprenticeship programs. They could be a way for our engineers to learn about human technology under the guidance of experts who understand the importance of sustainability." Jack was pleased with the suggestion. An apprenticeship program would ensure that knowledge transfer is hands-on and deeply contextual. "We could pilot the program with a small group to gauge its effectiveness and adjust as needed." As the discussion continued, Taller facilitated several breakout sessions where specific topics were explored in depth. Jack joined a group discussing scientific collaboration, while Miles attended a session focused on educational resources. In his group, Jack worked closely with Lelurian scientists to outline potential joint research projects. "We could start with comparative studies of our planet's ecosystems," suggested a Lelurian ecologist. "It would give us insights into resilience and adaptation strategies that might be applicable on both worlds." Meanwhile, Miles explored how Lelurian educational materials could be adapted for human learners. "Incorporating virtual reality could make learning about Lelurian society immersive and engaging for our students," he proposed. The workshops concluded with presentations from each group, sharing their proposals and receiving feedback from the mixed audience of humans and Lelurians. The energy in the room was one of cautious optimism as each side saw the potential for true interstellar friendship and learning. After the sessions, as the participants mingled and shared informal discussions, Jack pulled Miles and Taller aside. "Today felt like a turning point. There's a real pathway here, not just for collaboration but for mutual growth." Miles nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "The key will be maintaining this momentum and ensuring that the projects we start are sustainable and respectful of Lelurian culture." Taller, looking between the two humans, smiled. "Your openness to learning and adapting has made a significant impact. I believe we are on the right track." As they left the conference center, the setting sun cast a warm glow over the city, reflecting off the crystal structures and bioluminescent plants. It was a fitting end to a day that had brought them closer to bridging their worlds, a reminder of the beauty that could arise from sharing and understanding across the stars. As the new partnerships began to take shape, Jack and Miles faced the complexities of integrating vastly different cultures and technologies. In a meeting room filled with both human and Lelurian collaborators, they sat down to address some of the emerging challenges. Miles opened the discussion, addressing a room of mixed attendees. "While our joint projects have begun with great enthusiasm, we've encountered a few significant challenges, particularly in aligning our technological interfaces and educational methodologies." Engineer Soren, who had been working closely with Miles on the environmental technology exchange, added his perspective. "The main issue on the technological front is compatibility. Our systems operate on completely different fundamental principles. For example, our energy conversions are not directly translatable to human technology without some loss of efficiency. Jack nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps we need to think less about direct translation and more about creating hybrid systems that can leverage both technologies effectively. What do you think, Soren? That might be the key, Soren agreed. I propose setting up a dedicated team to explore hybrid technological solutions, starting with a small pilot project. On the educational front, Dr. Leora shared her observations. We've noticed some resistance among Lelurian students to the human teaching methods, which tend to be more individualistic compared to our communal learning structures. Miles suggested, maybe we could develop a new curriculum that blends our methods. For instance, we could incorporate more group-based learning projects that align more closely with your communal practices, while still introducing some elements of individual critical thinking exercises. That sounds like a promising approach, Dr. Leora responded, making a note. I'll gather a team of educators from both sides to start drafting a prototype curriculum. As the meeting progressed, Taller facilitated discussions, ensuring that all voices were heard and that solutions were practical and respectful of both cultures. Jack, meanwhile, focused on drafting a proposal for the hybrid technology pilot project, which would later need approval from both the Human Command and the Lelurian Council. After the formal discussions, the group split into smaller teams to tackle specific issues. Jack joined the technology team, while Miles worked with the education group. They spent several hours brainstorming, debating, and planning. Later, as they reconvened for a joint dinner, the atmosphere was cautiously optimistic. Over the meal, Jack raised his glass to toast the day's efforts. To innovation and understanding, may they lead us to a better future for both our worlds. The dinner extended into the evening with informal conversations that blended personal stories with professional insights. Taller shared anecdotes about Lelurian explorations of their own planet, which mirrored the human desire to explore and understand. Miles, reflecting on the day's work, mentioned to Jack, "These are the kinds of challenges that test us, but also make us grow. Integrating our worlds isn't just a technical challenge, it's a profoundly human one." Jack agreed, his expression thoughtful. Absolutely. It's about more than just making two systems work together. It's about making sure we're actually enriching both our societies in the process. As the night wound down, and the participants said their goodbyes, Jack and Miles walked back to their quarters under the light of Azura's twin moons. They discussed the day's successes and the road ahead, both aware of the significant work that remained but energized by the potential of what they were creating together. It's not just about overcoming challenges, Jack mused as they reached their door. It's about turning those challenges into opportunities for something truly groundbreaking. Miles nodded, and in that effort, we're not just engineers or teachers. We're pioneers on a new frontier. The early morning sun cast a warm glow over the Lelurian capital as Jack and Miles prepared for a significant day. The culmination of their work was about to be presented to both the Lelurian Council and the Human Command team, who had arrived on Azura to review the progress of the collaborative projects. In a large conference room, the air buzzed with anticipation. Jack and Miles, along with Taller and other key Lelurian partners, made final preparations. Displays of the proposed hybrid technologies and the new educational modules were set up around the room. As the room filled, Jack stepped forward to greet the arriving dignitaries, including Commander Lisa right from Earth. "Commander, welcome to Azura. We're eager to show you what we've accomplished." Commander Wright nodded, her expression serious but open. "I'm looking forward to it, Lieutenant. This could be a significant step forward for human-alien relations." The meeting began with Taller offering a warm welcome and a brief overview of the joint efforts. He then handed off to Jack, who led the presentation on the technological collaborations. "As you'll see, our focus has been on creating systems that leverage the strengths of both human and Lelurian technologies," Jack explained, showcasing diagrams and results from the pilot projects. "Our hybrid environmental control system, for instance, has shown a 20% increase in efficiency over our standalone systems." Miles then took the floor to discuss the educational initiatives. "We've developed a curriculum that incorporates Lelurian communal learning strategies with human critical thinking exercises. Initial feedback from our test groups has been incredibly positive, with both Lelurian and human students showing improved engagement and comprehension." Commander Wright listened intently, asking detailed questions about the scalability of the projects and the measures in place to ensure cultural respect and sensitivity continued to be upheld. Jack and Miles answered confidently, supported by their Lelurian colleagues. As the presentations concluded, Counselor Riva stood. What we have seen today gives us much to consider. This collaboration has not only brought our two worlds closer, but has also opened up new possibilities for all of us. She turned to Commander Wright. We propose that this partnership continue, with expanded projects and deeper exchanges. We believe this is just the beginning of our journey together. Commander Wright smiled, the first genuine smile of the day. I agree, Counselor. Let's take the next steps together. The room erupted into applause, a sound of shared triumph and excitement for the future. After the formal meeting, a reception was held in the gardens outside the conference center. Jack and Miles mingled with the attendees, receiving congratulations and discussing potential next steps. Taller joined them, clapping them both on the back. You've done more than just bridge two technologies or two educational styles. You've helped bridge two worlds. Miles looked around at the diverse group of humans and Lelurians chatting animatedly around them. It feels like we're part of something much bigger than any of us anticipated. Jack nodded in agreement. Today isn't just a conclusion, it's a launching point. There's a lot more work to do, but now we do it together. As the reception continued, the setting sun cast long shadows across the garden. The light of Azura's twin moons began to rise, bathing the gathering in a soft, hopeful glow. Reflecting on the journey, Jack felt a profound sense of accomplishment and optimism. Here's to the future, Miles. To new horizons, new challenges, and new opportunities. To new horizons, Miles echoed, raising his glass in a toast. Together, they looked out over the garden, where humans and Lelurians laughed and talked as equals and partners. It was a small glimpse of what the future might hold, a future they had helped create.